for this delay, and welcome to everybody to this weekly webinar of the Italian InsurTech Association. We are together here with Francesco Zaini, Raffaele Riva, Yuri Poletto, and our guest is Fouad Husseini. Fouad is the founder of the Open Insurance Initiative and one of the world's leading experts on open insurance, and also author of an amazing white paper on this topic that we're going to discuss later on. So first of all, welcome, Fouad.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
All right, thank you. It's great to be in to speak to you all.
Are you in Jordan right now? How did this month of lockdown in Jordan go?
Actually, we've been in lockdown since the middle of March, and so it's safe to say that Jordan is probably one of the safest places on earth right now, because we either have zero or maybe a handful of cases. Obviously, we don't have much use of the airport, so it's really difficult to get out and get back in. So that meant that I cannot go back and forth between here and London, because I would have to go into quarantine there for 2 weeks, and when I came back, I'd have to go for another 2 weeks of quarantine. So I'm staying put where I am in Jordan until things clear up.
Good for you. We saw different movies, let's say so, in the last month. So let's start to build up a common basic vocabulary and a common ground. So I would like to start knowing which is your definition of open insurance.
Right. Well,
and sorry, I remember to everybody to switch off the microphone. They are not speaking. So Liliana, please, if you can switch off your microphone.
Well, Leonardo, I think it's if I go through my presentation and then you can get.
Grazie. Ciao, figurati. Io invece devo ringraziare, bellissimo mettergli via qua il screen dietro.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go on. I was just saying to Liliana to switch off the microphone.
A me non lo mette me come virtuale.
Right. Shall I go through my presentation and then we can go through the details of what open insurance is about and what we're trying to achieve with the Open Insurance Initiative?
Esatto, una ragazza.
Sure, please go.
Right. So
quello.
I've attended many conferences, obviously, and webinars, and it's always exciting to hear about innovators and how they're forcing really small companies business models.
No, perché una volta volevo provarla a mettere.
I hope you can hear me, because I can hear a lot of sound.
Yeah, I can hear you, but there is one microphone that is open and we need to switch off. Just give me a second, sorry.
Non ho detto, va bene. Copiamo l'idea di Marco. Mettiamo la microphone.
I think that is Liliana microphone. Just give me a second. Oh no, okay. She switched off the microphone. Please go on.
Right. So platforms, and ecosystems have become now buzzwords in the insurance industry, and they're obviously driving the industry towards more integrated business models and innovative collaboration. So the word collaboration has become a hot keyword in the sector. And this means that there's a need to establish sound industry frameworks for open collaboration. And we also need to be mindful of the increasing intelligent connectivity, wearables, autonomous vehicles and machines, which operate anytime, all the time and anywhere. And insurance needs to adapt to become more automated and autonomous, much like these assets that it's designed to protect. And I believe in the future, no individual company could possess all of the resources, time, and capabilities that you need for success in this kind of environment. So in ecosystems, incumbents can tap new advanced technologies, data sources, services, distribution channels, and lots more without the multiplication of complex and costly individual relationships. And this is backed by research. I mean, 75% of insurance executives agree that platform ecosystems can have a transformative effect on the insurance sector. And 70% agree that platform ecosystems create an environment for, otherwise unlikely integration partners. So point-to-point integration, which is what we have right now, and it's happening via individual partnerships for normally a specific purpose. These are costly and will increasingly become a hindrance to innovation as well as growth. Add to that, for the past 60 years, the industry hasn't introduced an entirely new P&C insurance product for individual customers. So we all know that insurance is data-intensive business, perhaps more so than banking and many other businesses, and the range of data that is collected is increasing all the time. Third-party providers will no doubt find plenty of uses for this data, and this includes robo-advisors, chatbots, price aggregators, machine learning, and I know Gerardo is interested in that. Blockchain smart contracts could also be part of these new innovations. Of course, much of that data is locked up right now. According to research published last month, only 32% of data collected was put to work, so 80% goes unleveraged. So here's what we want to do. We propose an international uniform standard for APIs. Such standard would have two key components. The first involves developing a common API standard. Open APIs allow companies to publicly expose the underlying information and functionality of systems and applications to all kinds of third-party service providers. So the open community, and when I say open, open is an acronym for open insurance. The open community will design a blueprint to allow data to securely flow between insurers, customers, and third-party service providers. And to do that, we will adopt widely used solutions for API architecture, data formats, authentication, and authorization frameworks. And it will be an open source API standard in the fashion of open source software. The second key component involves sharing access to data. This involves two types. The first is open data, which would be aggregated and anonymized. And the second involves personal data of policyholders. And the result is that consumers will be able to enjoy security and convenience in managing their policies. So our role as an organization behind this initiative is to build consensus and develop industry views through collaborative research into API standards, data standards, and open insurance regulation. So what are our primary objectives? Well, it has to be a win-win scenario. Consumers and SMEs will be big winners. They'll have access to InsurTech-enabled platforms that can provide wider choices and better prices with seamless integrated bundles of services, and more importantly, instant claim settlements. Smarter regulation and policymaking will match the speed at which platforms and ecosystems advance. And it's not all about startups. So we want to have incumbents to future-proof their competitive position as well. At the same time, open insurance will need developer-friendly and open APIs, which will enable integration and collaboration for building platforms and marketplaces. And that's exactly where startups will shine. So what about the data? Like I mentioned before, 68% of the data is not utilized. And data could allow for the development of AI to produce instant and profitable underwriting, claims processing, and personalized solutions. And let's not forget that platform businesses scale fast, and remaining relevant today is really a make or break. We want to reinforce an approach of experimentation, partnerships, and smarter regulation. And by the way, it does not take Google resources to develop these ecosystems. That's why they've become a tool for startups to dislodge long-established incumbents. And one thing for sure, without standards, compatibility, and modularity, no ecosystem would exist. And that's the power of open insurance. Developing new use cases is where it gets most interesting. And it's where we expect insurtech and fintech startups to innovate. For instance, parametric insurance products, microinsurance. These are expected to be big winners. And there are several ecosystems that are emerging, and they are also relevant to the insurance market. For instance, the mobility ecosystem involving autonomous cars, telematics, and there's the health ecosystem with digital health, recreation, wellness, and the housing ecosystem, which involves home search, mortgages, and financing. And I would like to highlight that some of the findings from the market studies that we carry out to determine the state of open API adoption, the picture is changing quickly. I mean, incumbents and startups are really catching on with open APIs, but startups still lead in API adoption with 56% of the companies that we track providing APIs. And here's where the picture gets interesting for innovators watching us on this webinar. 52% of APIs do one thing, and they do it very well, and that is to provide a quotation and conclude the sale completely online. So this means much of the after service is not fully digitized. Another interesting fact is that 80% of the products served are still conventional products, not UBI. UBI commands only 20% of the total APIs available. For us at the Open Insurance Initiative, it's been a great journey so far, which included initiating hundreds of conversations all over the world, like this one here today. We have more than 80 companies that have joined this movement, and we obviously need to continue building momentum and drive even more conversations. So through this webinar, I'd like to invite thought leaders, incumbents, startups, insurers, intermediaries to join us. And I think that that gives a concise picture of what we're trying to achieve with open insurance.
Yeah, you put on the table all your cards, yeah, just on the first move. So it was pretty impressive. You point out several topics, a lot of them very complex. And I invite everyone to go to the Open Insurance Initiative and have a look to the map of the API landscape. That is something very impressive, the number of companies and startups and stakeholders involved in this landscape. Speaking of which, I would like to ask you to Yuri Poletto, this is a member of Italian InsurTech Association and expert in InsurTech, to start to put in line all this topic and make you some question about it.
Okay, grazie Gerardo. Thank you, Gerardo. Fuad, I wanted to start with a question that is like a link between open banking and open insurance. Sure. It's about this. When the PSD2 directive was announced, many banks struggled to comply with the deadline. Many asked to postpone it. And only few have actually implemented strategies to build competitive advantages upon open banking. So my first question is, given this initial scenario in banking, why should insurers adopt open insurance?
Right. Well, excellent question, Yuri. Thanks for that. Well, obviously, there are many lessons there from open banking and how major banks, incumbent banks, have gone about adopting open APIs, more open interfaces, and more collaboration with fintech startups, etc. So it's really a choice for us in the insurance industry, whether we want to be proactive and go about collaboratively designing this common framework for us to cooperate with each other and to cooperate with, insurtech startups, fintechs, banks, digital health, etc. So it's a choice whether you want to stand still or if you want to prepare to interact with the transformation that's happening around us. And the transformation involves business, and it involves the consumers who are more digitally aware. They'd like to have more efficient services, more options, etc. And innovation is actually accelerating. So I could give you an example from 2000 until 2017. Okay, that's a 17-year period. 52% of the companies in the Fortune 500 index have either went bankrupt, disappeared completely, or have been acquired. And that's due to disruption that's happening in several industries. So the same could happen to the insurance industry, and you need to prepare for what's coming ahead. And in another forecast, by 2027, 3/4 of the companies in the S&P 500 index will be replaced, again, due to digital transformation. So my advice, be it to startups or to incumbents, is to really begin rethinking their strategies of building these digital platforms that could become a sort of singular platforms whereby all the interactions that happen through these platforms, and through that they can begin to orchestrate their platform ecosystems, and that's another big and a very important topic.
Perfect. Thanks. Thanks a lot, Fuad. Gerardo, you wanted to alternate? You wanted to make a question yourself, and then we switch to me again, or as you prefer?
Yeah, cool. Look, Fuad, internally to the Italian InsurTech Association, we are discussing a lot about data, about standard, about how the ecosystem will speak, and we have come to the preliminary conclusion, let's say so, that a unique industry data standard will be probably never happen after discussing a lot between insurance company, reinsurance company, distributor, technology player, incumbent, startup, legacy, etc., etc. That was the gut feeling. But there is also a positive aspect. Then that is that the challenge, according to this discussion that we are having internally to the association, is that now the challenge is to bring the stakeholders in the ecosystem to learn to talk to each other using as many technologies and languages and data formats as possible. Okay, so everyone needs to know how to use API, how to use JSON, XML. I mean, at the first stage, we need to pass by Babele. Okay, so every language, one tower, but 1,000 language, in order to arrive to Rome, right. Is Pax Romana. What do you think about this thought that we are having inside the association?
Well, let's take the UK example. Okay, so when PSD2 was the framework was published, the UK took let's say a leading position in trying to prepare for open banking, okay, by having one specification for all UK banks that for them to adopt, so you wouldn't have fragmentation in be it the API specification or the data format. And they've been able to put together the standard within about 1 year. Okay. Now it's relevant how fast or how slow some banks were, but it can happen. And the Open Insurance Initiative was one of the insurance respondents to the Financial Conduct Authority call for input on open finance. So the UK is already thinking about extending the open banking framework to include insurance, pensions, mortgages, investments, etc. So it can happen, and they are exploring these ideas. And I think we were one of very few respondents that have actually answered all the questions, not only relating to insurance, but also relating to banking and investments. And there are various initiatives in the UK, and they include the Smart Data Initiative. Okay, now this would include utility companies like electricity companies, water companies, telecommunication, etc. So the common data formats can happen. I think various people are trying hard to start these initiatives, and the government departments in the UK are exploring the idea of having the consumers exercising more of their power in using and sharing that data to get better services, have more options and lower prices. So if the UK goes ahead with open finance, this would also include insurance. And we provided our perspectives on that, on how we envision this to happen. And we've suggested that the insurance industry could participate by starting with specific lines of business. Like we could start with motor insurance, design APIs, data formats, launch that and learn from that experience, and then expand to other lines of business. So for me, yes, it can be done. We don't have to be so pessimistic. I think it will be for the better of the industry, whereby large segments of the population that are underinsured or do not have access to insurance, they'll be able to have easier access to insurance, not necessarily through insurance companies, but probably through telcos or banks or mortgage companies or motor dealerships. Okay, and this will allow new third parties that we don't maybe know about right now, but they could start experimenting of adding banking services with insurance services, with health services, with aggregating so many different services to come up with new packages of insurance products. Now this is where it gets exciting, and I think the industry should get excited about this, that insurance could become more ubiquitous, where it's widely available, and by virtue of data being shared through this insurance ecosystem, insurance companies could get the benefit of that, of so much data being aggregated, so that you can more accurately price your risk, more accurately analyze the insured's risk. So there are so many benefits that we could gain out of open insurance.
Cool. Yeah, we call it inside the association this kind of effect, externality, like insurance inclusion. No, that will be a clear effect of more spread insurance industry. And you speak a lot about the data standard, and in your white paper you mention also the Accord and all the initiative that has been conducted. Today we are among the panelists also Raffaele Riva from Swiss Re, that is working for the last 15 years, Raffaele, if I'm not wrong, on this topic of data. So is a kind of the master of data in the reinsurance industry.
Yeah. Right. If I just can add a little piece of information. Okay. Now we know that reinsurance companies are watching us, and I was pleased to see that in a report by Munich Re and Ergo, they've mentioned the Open Insurance Initiative as one of the innovation drivers in the insurance industry in 2019. And the initiative was also mentioned in the Insurance Insurance Innovators Report of 2019 as well. The industry knows that APIs will play a much bigger role in the future in the way that we do business. And to really get the most of the benefits of APIs, because APIs at the end of the day are just the pipelines for data to be, transited between A and B. So with that data format, okay, things will be much more difficult.
Yeah, sure thing. And yeah, and I think that is also a priority for insurance market. So if you would like to share with us, Raffaele, just a big picture about the RushLeakon project that you're working on it and related to this topic of the open insurance and the data standard.
Yes, thanks a lot, Gerardo. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And, let me start with a reflection, because in the village where my grandfather lived, there is a way of saying, some feels the rain coming, others are satisfied with being wet. So just to say that probably this is resonate to me a lot what told, because probably all the insurance market is in a condition where we have to avoid to take the umbrella. I would say the digitalization it's something that is unavoidable. The question is when this will be embraced. This is exactly what we are trying to do with RushLeakon in general, I would say. Coming back to the point, Accord Global, it's a large community, I would say, of brokers and reinsurers that decide to put all together 11 years ago to define a sort of standard in the transmission, in the exchange of data. When I say exchange of data, I refer to the end-to-end process from the acquisition of the policy to the reinsurance. So it's a complete and comprehensive, I would say, end-to-end process. The question is that obviously with RushLeakon, now we are more focusing on the reinsurance part. So it's happening between reinsurers, broker and insurer. And it's a big challenge, because this is something that is more familiar on the UK, in USA, from Asia, where no similar initiatives. So what we are trying to do is exactly try to introduce as far as concerned myself in Europe, this stuff, and in Asia. And I'm personally working on Italy, but I'm strictly related with France, with Spain, with other communities in Asia, also in Africa. So it is not an easy stuff, needless to say. And what it resonates to me is some words that you told among the various cooperation. It's also the insurers need to adapt. Also costly. That is perfect. So based on a similar consideration, what we are trying to do is exactly to define, and what we did during the first part of the year 2020, define some local standards that are integrated with the global standard, so that in case RushLeakon Italy hopefully will will be integrated at the global level. Nothing to invent something that is simply local, but something that can be used entirely, especially for those players that are international players, not local players. So in this integrated vision, the question is that now we are facing, and I'm working on this ecosystem on how to realize a platform for interconnecting the exchange of data in terms of the technical, accounting, and financial aspect of the various to transmit this data to the reinsurers. And the challenge is clearly that we have in front of us so many different IT systems of the various insurers, brokers, and reinsurers, that we have to find something that is able to harmonize, so as to allow that all this kind of incredible spider of things are interconnected and are able to speak with the same languages. We decide to adopt the Accord standard, and I would say that the real problem, for make things short, is not the technological aspect as far as concern ourselves. It's what you told, it's a cultural aspect. It's something that we need, that all the market, I would say, need to make a jump all together. It's the new, I would say, paradigm is that all these kind of subjects need to realize that simply if they work together, we can make this kind of big change in this respect. And this will be beneficial for all of the various players. But it is clear that this is the top, because we can also create a fantastic architecture, allowing all the various players to be interconnected. But the real challenge is to convince about the advantages that this allows in order to speed up the communication, the cash flow, in order to also reconcile every kind of item, counting item in time, and also allowing the various...
Indeed.
Yes. And
thank you so much.
Because I don't want to take a lot of time. Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of consensus, this is a word that has been used also by Fouad. And
Exactly.
Yuri, can we face another topic about all the doors that has been opened by Fouad at the beginning of his speech?
Yeah. Fouad, I wanted to describe you a scenario briefly.
Yeah.
That comes from a recent paper from Accenture, a consulting company. So imagine a scenario where a new commercial vehicle is involved in an accident. The insurer had recently added the vehicle to the fleet manager's policy, having automatically received the details from the manufacturer's dealer, with the customer accepting these policy changes digitally. Onboard technology now immediately alerts the company of the situation and provides the exact location of the vehicle. It also enables the vehicle manufacturer to remotely perform an initial diagnosis of damaged parts in need of repair. These, at the location, are immediately sent to the insurer, whose towing service and approved repair network are automatically alerted and activated. A real-time estimate of the likely repair time is developed and the courtesy replacement vehicle dispatched. Data on road and weather conditions, along with real-time accident reconstruction based on telematics technology, are employed to gain a rapid and early understanding of liability, enabling straight-through claim processing for the accident. Finally, once the vehicle is repaired and back on the road, the insurance repairer sends the details of the work to the vehicle manufacturer, allowing the company to continuously improve its accident diagnostics and vehicle design. So Fouad, I wanted to ask you, how far are we from this scenario today?
We're very far. I mean, based on our research, 52% of APIs, like I said, do one thing, and they do it really well right now, and that is to provide a quotation, conclude the sale completely online. Now, when it comes to claims, only 10% of those APIs can handle claims completely online through the platform. So you still have to call a call center or speak to an agent. You have to go back and forth. Obviously, the service is still hindered by, the conventional products that we are trying to simplify and digitalize. But what we need is a new kind of product, more UBI, more on-demand, more parametric products that can actually do these things, especially where the claims are concerned. And that's really the after service. So we have a long way to go, but I mean, this is a simple sort of scenario, because you could get even more complex with, let's say, there was a dispute between the policyholder and the insurance company, okay? And the case went to court. Well, we hope that in the future, the lawyers or the court won't have to look through or go through, paper files, okay? They'll be able to hook up the court system to the platform of the insurance company and pull all the data relating to that policy and the information in the claim files. And maybe in the future, you won't have a human judge there. It will be an AI system that's handling this dispute. And we already see this. I mean, there's already a company called Do Not Pay, and it's basically a legal robot. Okay, you go to the website, you tell them that I want to file a lawsuit against, one of the big companies, and everything is handled through their robots. No humans are involved. Or you could pay fines or raise a case against a fine payment and do the whole thing automatically. No human intervention there. I understand that. I mean, there are so many facets. Obviously, the prevention before an accident happens, how you could alert the insured to, let's say, take the vehicle to the dealership for maintenance. There's the prediction of an accident that's going to happen, etc., which could provide alerts, etc. So the use case scenario is wide and huge, and this is really where insurance will become interesting. I mean, compared to banking, banking, when you talk about open banking, there are just, bank accounts, payments, and maybe investments. Investments are obviously more interesting than, bank accounts and payments, because there are so many different products. And insurance, you could have thousands of different products. And you have so many different lines of business. You have engineering lines of business, that's commercial lines. You have consumer lines, for instance, life insurance, medical insurance. Yeah, it's a huge topic. And the ecosystems that we can interact with are huge. So you've already given this fantastic use case whereby the insurance company is connected to the vehicle manufacturer and dealership and the repair garage and the insured himself. But think of health also in the same framework, okay? There are so many different parties that could get involved and we can interact with. And imagine the sort of data that will be circulating within the ecosystem if everybody speaks the same language. So the use cases are absolutely bewildering, but we need to also move forward with the products that we design. Simplification is probably good enough for now. Simplifying conventional products is probably good for now, but in the future, I'm speaking about a year or two, I'm not speaking about 5 or 10 years. In the future is the near future. UBI, usage-based insurance and on-demand insurance, parametric insurance, and hopefully smart contract insurance as well, which allow for selling the policy and paying out a claim in a very autonomous fashion. Okay, that would be even better. Okay, but how do you get there, and how long will it take to get there? That's the question here. And obviously, when you open up your platform and data is available and APIs are available, you get the innovators to try out your platform and try out new use cases that you probably did not think of. I mean, we are still limited in the way we think that we want to link, the insurance company with the manufacturer, with the garage, etc. But somebody else might be thinking totally different idea. And that's the beauty of open APIs. You don't know what will come out. Okay.
Unpredictable future. I mean, like always.
Exactly.
The technology and that the open source culture can be simply unpredictable. And you mentioned several times a word that I love, that is ecosystem. No, but I mean, it's something that is an ecosystem, is something that is constantly changing, constantly evolve, and you do not know, you cannot know how something can evolve in which direction and which way and how speed. Yeah, because that's another point. How speed. Yeah. You can make some prediction, you can have some intuition, of course, but the reality is that everything is unpredictable. And among with us today, there is Francesco Zaini from GW that has Francesco, can you hear us and can you speak?
Yes. I hope you can hear me. Can you?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, now we can. Francesco spent a lot of time, experience, work. And would be nice to have also impression of the ecosystem and how it's going, where it's going.
I'm sorry I had to disconnect my image because apparently, the bandwidth is not particularly helping me today. But anyway, if you can hear me, I can continue. Can you confirm?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you.
Yeah, we do, Francesco. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So talking about ecosystems, there is one thing that I read today that is probably good to introduce the topic, although you already spoke about that before. You may know who Elon Musk is, and he's full of initiatives. You know that he tried some months ago, and in the last couple of years, to set up agreements with insurance companies. Apparently, that didn't work really perfectly. But at this point, given that it didn't work so well, he decided to set up his own insurance company, And this is the announcement of the day. And one of the things he said is that he's now looking for revolutionary actuaries, okay? Which sounds a little bit, weird in a way. But that's something that makes us think a little bit, because certainly he has to set up a revolutionary approach to insuring Tesla cars, because the risk profile of these cars is absolutely different from others. With this, premise, we get to a point that, basically there are, incumbents and startups and big tech coming from other environments and other sectors that can enter, into the insurance environment. And that can, certainly is a threat, but it can be also an opportunity if that is taken as a trigger for innovation and as a way to also to connect and maybe partner with others. In fact, the concept of ecosystem is based on the fact that you not only, let's say, bring, external innovation inside coming from startups of the same sector, like, for example, insurtech startups with insurance incumbents. But you can also, combine different business models to come up with a new one. So, for example, if you talk about mobility, home, health, etc., you can see that you can combine, the value propositions in order to come out with a new and unique one. And this is interesting for insurance companies because, this kind of approach, first of all, has to be based on the open insurance concept, because anyway, open insurance doesn't necessarily imply an ecosystem approach, but is the gate for the ecosystem approach. Without an open insurance approach, you cannot get there. You have to be open, so open to the external world. And the second point is that given that there are some threats that incumbents or startups from other sectors can come and take some margins and revenues away from the insurance incumbent, then you have to react and to propose new value propositions where insurers can get part of the pie, of course. But it's not only that, because in reality, there are, a number of other, let's say, advantages that insurance companies can get from this approach. And that comes from the, the position and the nature itself of the insurance companies, because, provided that they are in a good position in the market, that they have, positive returns, still they suffer from the fact that, their relationship with their customer, particularly in the retail sector, is not the one that, everyone would dream, because, the number of contacts with customers is limited. Very, very frequently is just limited to the payment of the insurance policy at the beginning of the relationship, or when there is the renewal, or, is there when a claim takes place, and it is not the best possible moment for relationship with the customer. But in addition to that, given that there are, few limited contacts, the data, the information on the customers is limited, and anyway, by definition, it's a push kind of business. So you have to push the product, the service on your customers, because generally people don't wake up in the morning thinking that they need the coverage for their house or for their car, unless it is compulsory, mandatory by law. So this is a situation in which to combine, value propositions can be very beneficial, because in this way, basically you can, to a certain extent, transform a push kind of product in a pull one, and or combine the data on the customer and build up a better relationship. But there is one last point that I would like to mention, which has to do with the, let's say, technical management of the insurance and of the policies on the customer. Because when you combine services that provide, like, for example, maintenance, the monitoring of the house or the car, etc., then you can act in terms of improving the prevention of the risk, so a lower frequency of claims. You can mitigate the risk, so a lower cost when the negative event happens. And also you can manage much better, the claims process, because you basically replace the payment with the repair or cure of the customer. So there are a number of reasons for which, insurance companies, the incumbents in the sector, can benefit from an ecosystem approach. And some of them are the same that you would find in other sectors, and some are really specific to the insurance sector. And in one case, they're unique. And this is the first point. I don't know if you have other specific questions.
Well, I think that we can keep opening doors of the initial speech of Fouad, and then we will come back with a round.
Yeah, there are some maybe some specific experiences we can speak about, but we can do that later, maybe.
Sure thing.
Right.
Okay. If there is time.
Can I make a comment, because Francesco is, as usual, he's got great ideas, especially when it comes to ecosystems, and he's quite correct. Companies from other industries entering the insurance market with ideas about how to transform insurance services is really a warning sign to the industry. So you cannot really play a wait and see strategy. You will have to be proactive, and there are examples of proactive companies. And I've recently prepared a study on ecosystem maturity within insurance platform ecosystems, and one notable example that came up was La Parisienne, which is a Paris-based incumbent insurance company that's more than 100 years old. So it's not an insurtech, and they've transformed from being a conventional incumbent insurance company into a singular digital platform. So they don't deal directly with the end customer. They deal with insurance brokers and intermediaries. Okay, they've gone, all their products have been digitized. So everything, claims, underwriting, etc., is served through this singular digital platform. And this is really the future of insurance. And they're trying to innovate in their own way, and they've been on this journey for probably 3 years, and they've witnessed growth of more than 35% over the past 3 years, which is incredible. And I think this is where the future lies. You have to transform. You have to adopt more digital strategies. You have to build a platform that can serve products and provide an after service completely online and through digital channels.
Okay.
Completely agree.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Gerardo. I wanted to ask a question to Fouad, because until now we have raised a lot of points. We have identified the opportunities, some blockers of open insurance. I wanted to ask Fouad, as open insurance is a quite new concept, but in the world, actually, there are several insurance companies that have adopted it. I was wondering, Fouad, if you could tell us about some of those companies and what they have achieved so far, in your experience.
Right. I've already given one example, okay, which is La Parisienne. There's also Euler Hermes, which is a credit insurance company. And what we're seeing is that many of the credit insurance companies have actually started already their digital transformation, and they're providing platforms. So Euler Hermes is not unique, and there are also insurtech startups like Hokodo, and they also serve credit insurance completely online. And not only that, but they also provide data on potential customers, etc., so that a bank or an online merchant could run a search on a potential customer to see what sort of risk rating this customer carries. There are also large US insurance companies like Nationwide and Liberty. They're really doing fantastic with their transformation strategies and the platforms that they are providing. Both of them provide a large catalog of open APIs. Santa Lucia, which is another almost 100-year-old Spanish insurer, has set aside all 200 million euros for their transformation project, and they want to become a digital platform. And in our research, they were the only company that's providing an app, a sort of app marketplace. Even though it's very primitive, I mean, it's not like the marketplaces that you find on Android or the iPhone, etc. But it's the shape of the things that will come in the future. So you will provide a platform, you will provide the ability for developers to make or develop extensions for your platform. Okay, they could develop new applications, and those application developers could build their own ecosystems on top of the ecosystem that you provide. So the effect would be for the insurance risk carrier to go down the stack. Okay, now La Parisienne and Santa Lucia have already taken this decision. You don't have to be, as an insurer, controlling the interface. You need to find another way of providing added value. You need to find another way of providing differentiation. And that will be through providing a much better value for your customer. And not only for your end customer, but for everyone that's involved within your ecosystem that's going to be integrating your product or extending your product, so that data is flowing within this ecosystem. It provides incentives for others to integrate your products or integrate into your platforms. And obviously it encourages more end customers to use your platform or your application, etc.
Excellent, thanks Fuad. And just a little addition, if you, I don't know if you already have it in your radar, it's a Brazilian insurtech, it's called Kakao.
Yeah, I know Kakao.
Yeah, I did a very interesting conversation with their CEO, Enrique Volpi, last week, and he told me about what they did with APIs and all the opportunities that this opened to them in their market to partner with large distribution partners. So it just came in my mind now talking about this.
Yeah, well, Kakao, if I'm not mistaken, is part of the open insurance community as well.
Might be, yes. I'm not.
I think it is.
Great. So, we spoke a lot about data. Is another buzzword of this conversation, and we spoke about ecosystem, so something that is alive. I have a question or a topic or a curiosity from Fuad and Raffaele. So the data side of the table, and is okay, it's unpredictable. Okay, everything is interconnected. Okay, 52% of the data, 68% of the data are sleeping somewhere. But at least in Europe, and I'm saying at least in Europe, we have something that is the GDPR. It is, according to my perception, I have, of course, I respect the concept of the GDPR, and I fully understand the ratio. But my question is, how can you see the coexistence of the ecosystem and the GDPR as it is today? I don't know if I may express myself correctly.
Yeah, you did, but I'll give Raffaele an opportunity to answer.
Yes, no, thanks for the question. It's a good question because it's something that, as you can imagine, we discuss also internally as a Rushlik on Italy, because being in Europe is one of the big that, and that without the GDPR, all things would be easier. But it is clear with the GDPR, simply we have to readapt, reshape our strategy in this respect. For sure, one thing that we need to do is to assure something that is easy. Be sure that all the communication are encrypted, so are made in a way that there are no problems. But the question is about, obviously, how all these data are stored and what kind of information are exchanged between the various actors. And I would say that the experience that we have is that even with the adoption of this kind of digitalization, because
we cannot hear you very well, Raffaele. So if you can try to reboot the microphone. No, Raffaele, we cannot hear you very well. So if you can reboot your microphone, and then we will try again. And Raffaele spoke about encryption, and I have also another doubt about encryption. Maybe try again. Try again. Sorry, Raffaele.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. No, I told simply that easy to say that we can exchange encrypted data and that's it. My only consideration that even today we have the same problem with the GDPR. So simply we need to be sure that apart the encrypted data that can be transmitted, but also the storage of this data is made in order to be compliant with the GDPR. So even with digitalized data, we will have to apply the same rule that we apply today. So the same caution, I would say even more. And for sure, the platform will be another enabler in this respect, because we will be, we should be in condition to demonstrate, even in front of the authority, that the platform is able to guarantee this kind of things.
Yeah. The encryption by design is something, I mean, there is a huge literature on encryption by design. The problem is always the decryption of the data, because if all the data are encrypted, then everything is encrypted by design. It's pretty deep, and it's truly, it's a true encryption of the data. It's pretty difficult to use it. That was my point about.
And you are right. And we are thinking whatever kind of solution, even for example, for being sure that each data then is transferred to a platform can be, yes, used for a few time, just for the time, but it remain one point in terms of GDPR,
Yes.
independent solution that we can find. How the player in the market store can guarantee that this data is stored.
The snapshot of insurance.
Can I make a comment here? I think GDPR is actually enables open insurance. So part of what we're doing is we've joined the innovation hub of the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, and we've also joined the innovation hub of the Information Commissioner's Office. Okay, so there's a lot of discussions going on in the background about how to protect the data and consumer rights, etc., in accordance with GDPR, because GDPR asks really important questions about the data and how it's going to be shared, how much of it, how is it shared, and who has access and why, etc. And I think the solution to this would be to develop, a middleware that insurance platforms could implement into their platforms that can at least guarantee the privacy and security of that data. And the good news is that there are companies now that have open sourced their data platforms. For instance, there's a Swiss company called Priv. Okay, they have a platform for collecting and protecting the data in compliance with GDPR, and it's a sort of middleware that you can integrate into your platform to ensure that you are compliant with GDPR. And like I said, it's an open source middleware, which means it's open for everyone to see how it works, and for the developer community to develop it further, improve its security, etc. So it's one of the ways forward. So we're seeing more open source insurance related software being offered, unlike in the past where everything was closed, everything was proprietary. And I think open source in the insurance sector would really help in solving many of these problems, especially the protection, privacy, and the decoupling of the data from the platform that uses that data. And that's a very important topic. How do you decouple the data and enable the customer to switch off access to that data, or provide access to that data, and to give the customer more control of who gets access, for how long, for what reasons. And there are various projects going on to solve these really big, let's say, challenges.
Thank you. It's a very nice way to view GDPR in like an enabler. And it's true, we work a lot also as association on digital identity, and all the software of the public administration in Italy, of course, are open source regarding the digital identity of the citizenship. And speaking of enabling and of this new, can I say, new space for new ventures, you know, this question is for Francesco and Fouad again. And in your opinion, which are the hot trend, okay, of the market in terms of new incumbent, new startup, insurtech for the next? I would like to say years, but maybe I should say months, according to the to the speed of the market.
No, Fouad, I leave it to you for in the first place, and then I have some other things to add to the previous.
Well, I think, thank you, Francesco. I think parametric lines of business are the way forward, actually, because they provide the ability to integrate these products easily, sell the product, and then provide more of an automated claim service where the customer does not have to call, does not have to fill a form. The software is intelligent enough for it to assess the damage and to make an assessment of the claims payment. So I see parametrics lines of insurance gaining more momentum compared to the simplification of conventional insurance products.
Yeah, and anyway, we can see that there are some parallels, let's say, between insurance and banking, although the point of departure is different, as Fouad was correctly saying before, and yourself, Gerardo, because in one case we start from basically a compliance environment and regulation environment, whereas in the case of insurance, we start from business considerations. And I'm quite convinced that some of the delays that we see on the banking side paradoxically are related to the fact that compliance has driven a lot the change. So the problem was to, for quite a long time to focus on how to get to compliance, and the business considerations were left behind, basically. Whereas in insurance, given that there is no, say, regulatory, let's say, constraint from this point, I mean, of course, the impact is more limited, but at the same time, what is there is good. I mean, and is quite at a good speed, let's say. So what is going to happen anyway is not that easy to understand, because as in banking, you have the possibility to have, as you have challenger banks, you may have challenger insurance companies, but it's not said that is necessarily, the way for the future. So I would guess that probably what is going to happen is that there will be a much more focus and positioning and this exact positioning of the different insurance companies that decide themselves where to stay in the value chain and in the market according to their strengths, basically, and their weaknesses. So that we'll probably have less generalistic approach in the market, in my opinion. And of course, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you.
I disconnect my image, so the situation can improve, I hope. I was saying that also the evolution of the ecosystem model may help in this sense, And I would like to add one additional thing to the points that I was making before, because before I was basically saying what the advantages are, but I didn't, let's say, describe probably well enough what the ecosystem is. And in fact, I saw also a question, and there is one basic point that I would like to make, is that a business ecosystem is basically made in order to satisfy a major important customer need. So, or a class of customer needs, like, for example, the ones related to their home, the ones related to their mobility, the ones related to their health. So that means that you start from the customer. And given that you start from the customer, you know, you change many rules of the game. Like, for example, you don't have necessarily to dismiss your traditional distribution network, no? Because that would impact your main business, and of course, you don't need to do it. But when you approach the customer, basically satisfying some of the major problems or opportunities they may have in a certain area, like home, like, for example, providing a peace of mind on the fact that they don't have to take care of, let's say, like leaks or fire or whatever it is. That means that you combine, you know, prevention services, assistance, monitoring, and remediation at the end of the day in only one place, basically. And of course, behind this, there are insurance coverages as well. But what you do is that, apart from the fact that, you know, the insurance companies can benefit from the fact that there will be probably a better, let's say, technical and risk profile of the policy, but, you know, the customer benefits from the fact that, you know, it has basically a one-stop shop. It doesn't have to, you know, to decide who to go to in order to have the different services. So that doesn't imply that, you know, that the traditional insurance can continue in the traditional channels. In addition to this, also, even, you know, some of the services of the ecosystem may even distributed or provided by, for example, the agents themselves. I mean, there can be an omni-channel approach. You can approach the customers directly online, but you can also approach the customers through the agents and the other traditional channels. There is no, let's say, mutual exclusiveness on this point. So this was something that I wanted to add because, I mean, it's not only a question of advantages for the company, but it's a question of advantages also for the customer. And it's a sort of win-win situation. Of course, this kind of solution is not, you know, for all customer targets, for all the situations, in all the markets, in all the times, okay? But it's a business model, and like all the business models, it has its own characteristics.
Sure. Yuri?
Yes, thank you, Gerardo. I had a last question for Fuad, and then we think we can switch to eventual questions from the audience. My question is, Fuad, there are several areas of the insurance value chain where open insurance can play a role. I wanted to ask, what are your opinion on those areas of the insurance value chain that have the characteristics to be the first to adopt open insurance, and why?
Well, if we take the example of La Parisienne, okay, the approach that they've taken is more distribution focused. So the focus is on distribution rather than, you know, providing a full digital service of, you know, claims, etc. But they're extending the platform that they provide through collaboration with insurtech startups like Zego in the UK. So their platform is cross platform and cross country as well. So they feed and they enable insurtechs in adjacent countries, and Zego provides insurance coverage to customers of Tesla. So so Parisian is already operating within the ecosystem of Tesla. So we think that we will be seeing more of these, let's say, initiatives whereby an insurtech provides a sort of platform for a core service or a core product provided by a risk carrier, whereby the end customer, being a motor manufacturing company, distributes insurance products to its car owners. And so the future is probably for the insurance to be already embedded and integrated into these vehicles. So the customer, when he buys the vehicle, the insurance is already configured within, let's say, the systems of the vehicle, and the customer, when he signs up at the car manufacturer's portal, he not only signs up to use the motor manufacturer's terminal, but he signs up for other services also, like insurance services. So I hope this answered your question, Yuri.
Thanks, Fuad. Thanks a lot. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. I mean, I think that we shared today a lot of idea, a lot of input about how will be the interaction among the stakeholders inside the market. And if someone, of course, has some question, there is the chat of WebEx that you can find on your panel control, and we can read it. In the meantime, I would like to say thank you to Fuad to bring today on the table and discuss with the Italian InsurTech Association this project. And congratulations again for your white paper. I've read everything from the technical point of view, so it was quite a challenge. We have a question from Francesco Dal Piazza. And it's a question for Francesco, I guess. It is, dear Francesco, 10 or clear and share the view the personal touch point COVID-19 providing will still play an important role integrated in an omni-channel approach.
Yes, this was, let's say, a second step of a previous question he asked before, related to the agent network of insurance companies. And that, in fact, was a question that gave me the possibility of explaining that ecosystems, the business ecosystems are related to customer needs.
Yeah.
They are all also based on an omni-channel approach. And in the case, for example, you may know that we are partnering with Vittoria Assicurazioni on the Vittoria Hub.
Sure.
In this case, for example, we are planning of, at least in the first step, in the first stage, to deliver the ecosystem benefits and the services through the agents network. At least, you know, at the first stage. And anyway, even later, that won't be excluded. So just for you to know, I mean, there are many different ways of providing, you know, benefits to customers. Of course, this relates mainly to the customer base, the existing customer base, but you know, it's a flexible approach anyway.
Clear. So thank you also, Francesco, for joining us today, and thank you, Raffaele. And first of all, thank you also, Yuri, to organize everything, because it's all the whole project started from Yuri, that know Fuad, and he built up everything. So thank you so much, Yuri.
Grazie a te, Gerardo, e all'associazione per questa opportunità.
And have a great weekend, all of you, because it's been a tough month for everybody to
Yes. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for this opportunity. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you, and answering some of those challenging questions. I'd like to say that, first of all, Gerardo, thanks for reading the white paper. Thank you. Next week, I'll be publishing a new article which focuses on the risks related to open insurance. So everybody focuses on the opportunities and the benefits of open insurance, and the risks get relegated. Okay, these are sometimes an afterthought. So I thought it might be a good idea for me to discuss really so many risks that are inherent with the adoption of open insurance for everybody, to think about and prepare for, so that we can have a more balanced discussion. It's not just about the opportunities, but there are also risks involved in adopting open insurance, be it for the consumers, be it for the regulators, be it for the insurance companies or reinsurance companies, etc. So that because I really want the sector to have a full grasp of what open insurance is about. It's not just about APIs. It's not just about ecosystems. There are so many things involved, and everybody needs to have a good understanding of the opportunities as well as the risks. So that, like I said, we have a more balanced understanding and a much better approach at adopting open insurance, because it's not something that's been forced on the sector by the regulators and the policymakers. It's a voluntary movement. We're saying to the insurance sector, let's come together, let's reach a common understanding for the data formats and the APIs on an open basis. It's not controlled by anybody. It's available for anyone to view, to use, to improve and redistribute. And that's the main difference between what we're trying to do as an initiative and the others like Accord or Beyond in the banking sector, etc. Is that nobody controls anything. You don't have to be a member, a fee-paying member, to use the standard. Okay, it's there on GitHub. You'll be able to fork it and use it straight away. And that's the beauty of what we're trying to achieve here.
Great.
Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Grazie a tutti, ciao.
Grazie.